Welcome back to the Dance Equations YouTube channel, inspiring young mathematicians one dance step at a time. Today, for tips and tricks, we're going to go through musical suggestions and ideas, so stay tuned. Okay, jumping into tip number one. This one's pretty simple. If you're teaching hip-hop dance, you most likely will want to stick with hip-hop music. Sticking in the same genre, something like contemporary or ballet, you might want to stay with something like piano or classical music. Although it is fun to combine styles, doing a hip-hop dance to classical music, but to begin, you might want to stick with something a little bit easier to blend together. Number two is age. Is the music age appropriate for the group you're working with? You don't want to come in with a hip-hop song that maybe sounds too immature for older students and vice versa. Tip number three, experience. This is a really important tip because if your students aren't used to counting music, we need to be really careful about the music that we choose if we're expecting them to hear and identify the counts. So if you are starting with a young group, you want to make sure the time signature is very clear, that they can hear the downbeat, or maybe even if they're an older group but they're not used to counting music, you want to make sure that it's something that they can really hear and utilize, especially if they're coming up with their own compositions. Number four, create an atmosphere. Sometimes, especially in dance equations, a lot of what we do is exploring movement. And so we're not necessarily working with a 1, 2, 3, 4 type scenario where we're always counting the music, but I like to keep the atmosphere in the room. So I like to play some sort of soundscapes or something mellow in the background to help kind of create the overall atmosphere and keep it creative. Tip number five, where is it that you find music? So you can go to streaming sites, something like Spotify, where you can find playlists that have already been created. I'll look up music for kids dancing, stuff like that, and I can usually find a nice selection of music there. YouTube playlists as well, especially for the soundscapes. I like to find something creative, either searching for yoga or meditation, and usually there's just some mellow type music that I can find for playing in the background. I do like to find albums, and I try to find like creative digital artists who are doing something a little bit unique because there's a lot of fun sounds and interesting sounds to use, and I will also give some examples at the end of some of my favorite albums and sounds that I like to use. But I do like finding an album because I can find an artist that I like the sounds they're using, but then they have multiple tracks. And I'm a big fan of albums in general, especially when artists really kind of create a whole vibe and feel. If you have certain songs you like that are pop songs, those are fine too, but generally I will look for instrumentals of those. If you have subscribed to the YouTube channel as well, you'll notice that I've included some electronic musical tracks that are separate from the lessons. So I'm starting to add lessons, as you've seen, on the YouTube channel. And I've also made a section with just the musical parts of those lessons so that when you just want to keep playing the music over again and not necessarily play it along with my lessons, you have music available, and they're just fun, upbeat house tracks. On the Dance Equations website, you'll see that we have also created a musical collection called Dance to My Equations. This collection is a collection of drumming soundtracks, and each one is a little bit different in tempo and style, and as well we tried to make a compilation with many different time signatures. So sometimes that's difficult to find. A lot of pop music is just a 4/4 time signature. In jazz, you can often find 3s or 7s and 9s, but 5s and 10s sometimes are a little bit harder to find. And because we're doing something different with math and dance, you'll notice in my curriculum, I use a lot of different time signatures with the dances, and I'm asking for students to explore choreography that will sometimes not necessarily fit a 4/4 time signature. Okay, so tip number 6, and this is a really important one for me, and that is to make your own playlist. It's fine to use the streaming or to use YouTube. I do that all the time. But if I really want an action-packed class, then I have a well-prepared playlist. I use my iPhone or my iTunes where I can create a playlist. I can download only the songs I need to be on that, and I have easy access. I don't have to depend on the internet working to do it that way. I just, have to make sure my iPhone's charged, and I have all my exercise categorized. So if I'm doing, say, a creative movement exercise where the students are exploring movement and trying to match movement to a specific style of dance, then I create like a list of maybe 8 to 10 tracks that have really varying styles of sounds. So, maybe I'll say like, I want you to move heavy like a rock. Then I have kind of like this heavy drumming music. And maybe if I want them to be light as air and explore the realms, the levels and realms and in a kind of light, airy way, I'll have music to reflect that, and I'll quickly have them labeled the way I want and in the order that I want. So I can just be switching really quickly through the tracks, and I don't have to make them wait. And a big thing to keep the pace going in the class is the music and the timing of your class, right? So waiting and looking for music, it can really change the dynamic of the class, and you can lose the focus of your students. So for me, the playlist, number 6, this is a really important tip, because the more prepared you are, I think the better the lesson. Also, it just means I'm not going to also run into songs that aren't working. The time signature maybe not be working, because I've picked out my tried and true music, and I can really fall back on that too. If I have extra time at the end of my lesson, maybe I want to throw in a new exercise or something that they really enjoyed from the past, and I will have the music all there so I can just hop over to something that works right away. So I definitely think that when it comes time, and if you have the time, to sit down and set aside certain tracks that you really like and match your exercises so that you can go to them quickly. Okay, the bonus tip, and this is also, I think, an important one, is to review your music. Either way, if you're using streaming or you've made your own playlist, review the music. For example, if you're doing a jumping exercise and you've picked out a track for jumps, or you're just randomly finding something, it might be too quick and they're gonna struggle like trying to jump on time or meet the demands of that music. And so you want to try everything out in advance. Also, if you're streaming music from Spotify or something like that, and you're following someone else's playlist, you can't guarantee that the music is going to be appropriate in language and content. So you don't want to run into a situation where all of a sudden a hip-hop song comes on and they're saying some pretty inappropriate things. That can be an awkward situation. So reviewing your music to make sure it works with the exercise, and reviewing the music to make sure it's appropriate for your classroom, is very, very important. I'm going to play a couple selections of music so that you can hear some of my favorite tracks and maybe the style of music that I use when teaching dance. So I hope this has been helpful, and you now have some idea of the kind of music that you can use in your classroom. And please, in the comments below, share any other links to some fun music that you found, because I'm always adding to my collection and I would love to know more. So thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and I'll keep these videos coming.